Hi guys. If you've made it to this step, congratulations. We are going to be working on how to brainstorm ideas for your personal statement. One thing that I hear over and over is like, I'm really boring. I don't have anything to write about, or I don't know what to write about. I've never done anything. And thanks to our handy dandy imaginations, you can be a completely boring person who has never done anything interesting and still write a very compelling essay about who you are as a person, which is never boring, by the way. So I'm going to run through two different techniques for brainstorming. One is the way I use it, and then two is a really helpful one from the website that I keep mentioning, collegeessayguy.com. And I'm going to walk you guys through me brainstorming to kind of give you guys an idea of how to do it. So for my brainstorming techniques, I recommend reading through the Common App essay prompts, and at each one, set a timer for 30 seconds and jot down whatever words or ideas come to mind. Usually this helps narrow it down because if you can't think of something in like 30 to 60 seconds, that prompt probably isn't for you. So you can at least cross one off the list. So here are the prompts listed again, and in italics are my brainstorm ideas. So the first Common App essay prompt is, some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent so meaningful, they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If it sounds like you, please share your story. One, I really like this one because if you've had me, you have most likely done the Adichie post, Danger of a Single Story, where we talk about stereotypes and identity. So I find this one really interesting to read. And maybe that means it's interesting to write. I don't know. So one of my students last year, she was Dominican American, and she wrote about the process of becoming a citizen here when she was little, or rather watching her parents do it. She did this by first talking about her favorite dish that her Dominican grandmother likes to make. And then she described it in detail. She opened the essay with like these mouth-watering descriptions of it that still makes me hungry. And then she went into a little bit about Dominican culture, how it inspires her, and how she's going to bring it into her life in college. So sort of a good little sneaky way to get in there. For me, if I had to answer this one, I'd probably write about how weird it is to be a white person from the racist South who's committed to Black Lives Matter. I do this, one, because it demonstrates where my values are, which is another sort of thing. It's a secret thing that they're looking for, is like, who are you and what do you believe in? So as you start brainstorming and thinking of ideas, think of things that are going to highlight who you are as a person and what you hold important. And I would also use that story because it's kind of interesting, because there's not a whole lot of white Southerners screaming at their family members about Black Lives Matter. So, it's sort of got an element of controversy, which is always interesting. Two, the second prompt, the lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you failed a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you? And what did you learn from the experience? One student of mine picked this one and wrote about almost failing AP chemistry, which was a really smart move because, one, it explained her low chemistry grade in her junior year. And she explained, rather than dropping it, she kept going and taught herself how to study for it. So even though her grade wasn't an A at the end of the year, she ended up being super proud of her 80 B minus grade. Oh my gosh, so annoying. Apologies. So she ended up being really proud of the 80 that she made in that class because she worked her ass off for it. And in writing about it, one, it shows, one, she's committed and she's like, I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid to do things that I'm not good at. And I'm going to apply a good work ethic to like make it amazing. So that's a really good one, but it doesn't have to be academics. And sometimes trying to make your personal statement about academics can make it boring. So don't be too stuck on the idea of like failing a grade or a paper or something. And then for me, I'm like, okay, if I were to write this, what would I say? There's been so much I failed. I'm just kidding, sort of. But I think I landed on picking a story about me failing a written kickball test in third grade because it's funny, frankly. In third grade, I switched to a new school, and I came from a school that had like creative movement instead of PE class. And also, y'all know me, I am not coordinated. So sports are not my forte. And I did not like playing kickball or at all. But that was like the only game that we played in PE because the PE teacher was lazy. Surprise, surprise. And he got really mad at me that like I didn't like playing and I wasn't paying attention. And I was like having imaginary games in my head when I was supposed to be guarding bases. So he made the whole class take a written test that I promptly failed because I knew none of the rules. And I made a 40 out of 100. And let's see. So it's a funny story. So that's good. And then you got to put a college spin on it. So I'd probably say this experience taught me that I couldn't be great at everything and that I didn't have to be good at everything in order to be good at the few things I did love. So instead I, committed to imaginary fairy games. I don't know. But basically, you want to sort of demonstrate strong personal values, whatever that means to you. So, like, I'm going to write about the story because it's amusing, and then I'm going to spin it at the end to be like, it was a good reminder that I don't have to be good at everything. Something like that, right? Okay. Prompt number 3. Reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking? What was the outcome? Whew, this is another juicy one. And if you haven't picked up on the hint by now, they're looking for something that speaks to who you are, what you believe in, and why. And that can always be funny, by the way. So examples of this one, you could changing your mind about someone whom you had stereotyped and turned out to not be that person. Changing your mind about a subject you originally thought was boring or stupid, but you ended up loving. To be perfectly honest, I haven't had a student write on this one. I'd be super interested in it though, because I think there's a lot of potential. Just off the top of my head, keeping with the academic theme, I'd probably write about how I first hated Shakespeare and was like, WTF is this guy talking about? Why do I have to read him? This is stupid. And I thought that until I got a good Shakespeare teacher who like walked me through it. And I was like, oh, this guy's real deep. Okay. So like that was something where I was like, this is stupid and hard. I don't like this. And then I stuck with it and was like, oh, actually, he's pretty good. To this day, I still don't really like Shakespeare, but you kind of get the picture, right? Like you're overcoming something or you're working hard to expand your horizons. All of these things are great fodder for the personal statement. All right. Prompt number 4. Describe a problem you've solved or a problem you'd like to solve. It can be an intellectual challenge, a research query, an ethical dilemma, anything of personal importance, no matter the scale. So it can be something very small. Explain its significance to you and what steps you took or could be taken to identify a solution. Whew. Okay. I'm not sure why, but this one sounds really tedious. Like, what the fuck has a teenager done that's that big, right? Like, the question just feels like, ooh, really daunting. But if you choose this, I'd use it as an opportunity to flex on something that you're proud on. Like, I decided to enter a weightlifting competition and trained every day for 6 hours during the summer. Like, you could, there's no dilemma there, but you could say, you were picked on as a kid and like wanted to feel confident that you could protect yourself. So you decided to solve it by entering a bodybuilding or weightlifting competition that made you really strong. So see how you sort of take something and then spin on it. Let's see, for an actual example, one student wrote about climate change. And the first time I read the draft, I was like, girl, we all want to fix climate change. Like, you haven't told me anything about yourself. So if you do pick this one, remember, this is about you. And the personal statement's just an excuse to talk about who you are, what you believe in, and why you're so awesome. So in order to help her make it specific and personal, I was like, well, why is climate change so important to you? And she was like, well, I was born near the beach, and when I was little, a hurricane flooded my family's basement, and it was really scary. So there's your personal hook, right? So like she has lived through a catastrophic event spurred by global warming, and that inspired her to write about wanting to pursue environmental science in college in her personal statement. So don't, if you're thinking big global problems, make sure to make it specifically about you when you're describing the examples. Okay. Option number 5, discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. Oh my God, these statements. All right. So this is another personal growth one, or anything. And also anything that you do can spark growth. It can be as mundane as realizing you have to brush your teeth more often when you have braces or your breath is gross, something that I devastatingly learned through all of my friends when I was a sophomore in high school during lunch. It was horrifying. Or you can write about winning like a competition or a team exercise, like you led your team to victory in X sports ball thing, like something that shows that you're going to work with a team, leadership. That's a good angle for sports. And another more prescient one is how COVID-19 changed your life perspective, because it certainly changed my life perspective, and it certainly made me be like, okay, what are my priorities in life? How am I going to go after them? So definitely don't shy away from the COVID one. Yeah, I know maybe you're thinking, oh, but everybody's going to write about that. Not necessarily. And 2, it doesn't matter if everybody writes about it, because it's about you. So yours will always be different. And then option 6 is something that I really like. Describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging it makes you lose track of all time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? This is for all you cosplay nerds. Actually, it's for all of you nerds. Anybody who is super into something that they love. I've had students write about their love of K-pop and how that enabled them to be bolder and have more confidence. As I said in the last post, Christian wrote about his love of Legos, etc. Like this is a good one to pick if you're already super passionate about something, and it really doesn't have to be school or academics. In fact, being passionate about biology doesn't really help set you apart. So if you're going to choose this one, be real with this one. Be personal about it. Pick something that you're actually interested in. And if it is school, then so be it. But pick a specific aspect of it and explain why. Remember, always be specific. And then 7, share an essay on any topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written, one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your own design. So this is basically like if you already have a personal statement written, or if you're itching to write about something that is not mentioned in any of these, you have carte blanche, which just means like a white card. You can do whatever you want on it. And so for my college essay, I obviously went for this prompt because I don't like following directions. I've gotten better at it. Anyway, so for my college essay, I wrote about shoe shopping. I'm sure all of you guys have heard this, but that's really basic bitch, right? Like, oh my God, you wrote about shoe shopping? But in it, I described like the agonizing decision of like whether or not to buy this weird pair of shoes on a clearance rack. And at the end, I pivoted and turned it into something like positive of, it may take me a long time to make decisions, but I always have a confidence that I made the decision with all of the knowledge I had available, and blah, blah, blah. Something I don't really remember. It was a very long time ago. But in general, just to sort of recap what we've done here, we've brainstormed and what I want you guys to do is brainstorm by going through all of the prompts and seeing what you can come up with in 30 seconds. If you need longer, make it a minute. And by the end of that, you can sort of see what grabbed you and what's the most interesting. And another thing, as you guys are thinking, a lot of the best examples that I've read have a twist. Like you start out writing about shoe shopping like you're this basic bitch, or you start out writing about your obsession with Lego building, or you start about writing your grandmother's favorite dish that she made, and then you sort of spin it into this statement about yourself, or a personal statement, as it were. So try to think of those sort of things, and like don't be afraid to make leaps and connections, because I think that's where like the creativity of this assignment gets in. Anyway, I hope my way was helpful, but if it wasn't, I've got another example coming right up. See you guys later.